Just want to preface this by saying I'm not a doctor, and no one's mental disorders are worse than or better than anybody else's mental disorders. We're all a little bit screwed up in the head. Guten Tag, heyo, ciao, and what have you. On this very special episode of Why Am I Watching This, we will be talking about what philosophers often call the little jelly bean inside your head. What specifically we will be talking about is the boring stuff that you probably read about in school, but weren't interested enough in to retain. First off, we have self-awareness. You know that scene from Inception where they're walking in the dream and all the background characters look at Leo DiCaprio? Self-awareness is basically that, except DiCaprio is you, and the cold, unfeeling eyes of the background characters are also you. In layman's terms, the brain realizes it exists and has a panic attack, like when you can't get your locker open and you don't see people walking to the buses anymore. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a schizophrenia-induced homicidal rampage, and 10 being people who can acknowledge their own good deeds, self-awareness falls at about a 5. Not too dangerous, but not too boring. Next up is deja vu. Deja vu is defined as the feeling that one has lived through the present situation before. While this is fairly neat in today's standards, I can't imagine the personal and social hell that a medieval peasant would go through if they had an internal split about whether or not they were living a lie because they had already slaughtered and eaten this chicken before. Just kidding, most serfs and medieval peasants weren't eating chicken because they usually had to sell their food to make sure the lords didn't kill little Jimothy. There's also some kind of interesting facts, like how the temporal lobe forms a connection between deja vu and memory, so basically the brain sabotages itself into accidentally inducing deja vu. Third is OCD, which develops kind of like a drug addiction develops. Vape a couple times, your mind receives nicotine and goes, right on, chief. Well, with OCD, the habit's developed by repeated behavior, which the brain feels alleviates anxiety. Genetically, OCD is due to structural and functional abnormalities in the brain, which I guess means I'm literally malfunctioning and broken. There are a few different types of OCD. Checking, which means repeatedly locking doors, windows, making sure the shallow grave in your yard is still undisturbed, that kind of thing. Contamination, which means repeatedly washing your hands or a constant feeling that you are infected by germs. Mental contamination, which is when the person feels emotionally dirty, although this doesn't have a whole lot of research into it yet. Hoarding, which is the inability to discard useless or worn-out possessions, much as I can't let the thought of her drift off. Ruminations, which is essentially prolonged thinking on traditional philosophical thought, such as life after death, origins of the universe, what is oatmeal, yada yada yada. Intrusive thought, which means that you have repetitive and unclean thoughts about violence. While this is true for literally everyone ever, OCD makes it repetitive. And symmetry and orderliness, which is when everything must be neat and tidy, unlike the drawings I've made if you zoom in too far in one of my videos. Apologies if this video is short or not as upbeat as the others, but the Napoleon one was kind of a long boy and I've been back in school as of late. To all the smooth beans watching, much obliged, and constructive criticism is always welcome.
God damn it, my mic wasn't on. Fudge. Scheiße. Gottverdammt.
Oh, yes. There are a few different types of OCD.